Hello Britball Nation and welcome to our power rankings following week 5 of the BUCS American football season. Apologies, they're a little late this week, but in a way we're actually really pleased to be able to tell you that we're just so busy here at DC that it's tough to keep on top of everything. There is so much going on in the Britball Nation right now and so many more things that we'd love to cover but we just don't have the time for. Many of you have been in touch with great feedback about the improvements we've made to our coverage and we're really doing our best to ensure we take it all on board. We've got the Christmas break coming up, but just because there'll be less Britball being played doesn't mean things are going to get any quieter from us here at DC. In fact, we've got plans to use the mid-season break to install a number of further improvements to the site, create a bunch of new content that should become regular features through the latter half of the season, and work on building and strengthening our relationships across the nation. All that said, we're kicking off our power rankings in Division 2 where there's been some big shifts following a number of upsets over the weekend. So let's jump into it. First off, we're going to combo our cut teams and honourable mentions for these rankings as we fully expect each of the teams that dropped out of the top 10 this week to be capable of making reappearances. Colonials slide through inactivity, but a win against number 1 Coventry in the biggest game of their season so far will see them rocket back up the rankings this weekend. In the same boat, the Plymouth Blitz succumbed to their first ever loss to the Bournemouth Bobcats and suddenly the pre-season favourites for the conference are at risk of not only losing their conference crown and the chance of Div 1 balling, but potentially missing out on the post-season entirely as a number of their conference rivals have gotten hotter as the season's gone on. Lastly, the Quimble Vipers slip out of the rankings purely through inactivity. Sadly for the Vipers, it looks like their matchup this weekend isn't going to go ahead, and in general the 2A South East has seemed like a Bermuda Triangle for fixtures this season, so it might be a while before the Vipers reappear in the ranking. However, they all still look like contenders in their respective conferences and we'll expect more wins to come from them yet this year.
10.
Mud Dogs lose, but barely, and in no small part thanks to a balls up on the very first play of the game that set the Griffins up in the Dogs' red zone right from the get-go. The 6-game format of Div 2 is particularly harsh this year as there's no return legs via which to turn over losses against other top contenders, so Bangers' hopes now rest on not only being perfect to their remaining fixtures, but also someone else taking a scalp from the Griffins.
9.
A big win from the Predators who now sit atop the 2A borders and they probably deserve to be higher up the rankings than number 9, but we really need to see them put up a win against their crosstown rivals the Napier Knights before we'll know whether the Preds are ready to dominate the Borders Conference.
8.
Since the opening day loss to the Plymouth Blitz, the Bristol Barracuda haven't looked back with 3 straight 30+ point offensive performances and some tight D. Putting up big scorelines over Bath Spa and Aberystwyth doesn't turn many heads these days, but their dominant win over OBU certainly made an impact. And with the conference leaders, the Gloucestershire Gladiators, still ahead on the Cuda's schedule, Bristol are still very much in the conference crown race in the southwest thanks to the Bobcats taking down the Plymouth Blitz.
7.
It looks like the Griffins are the real deal as they follow up their 50-burger performance by taking down the number 4 ranked Bangor Mud Dogs in a tightly contested game under the Saturday night lights. Big plays stopped the Mud Dogs from converting any of their scores and we'd expect the Griffins to have few problems in dealing with the Vikings this weekend to move into the break perfect.
6.
Stags slide as others climb. We haven't heard from Southampton since their league-leading offensive performance in week 4 and may not see them again until week 8. The big one for the Stags, however, is the week 10 game against Brunel, where we'll learn a lot about the state of the 2A South.
5.
Raptors win big and might have won even more bigly if it wasn't for the game being called early due to injury. They go into the Christmas break perfect, not only in their record but also on defence. They've got 3 straight fixtures coming up out of the break and weeks 9 and 10 against the Mud Dogs and Griffins will likely decide the shape of the Northern Conference.
4.
Brunel are leapfrogged despite their win. We expected more points from them against BNU, but a second straight shutout from the D also speaks well of the Burners. They shouldn't have too many problems against the City Sentinels this weekend, but the mid-season changes to promotion will have them eyeing the week 10 game against the Stags. The Burners felt robbed of the opportunity for promotion last year and another season trapped in the basement tier would not sit well with them.
3.
Canterbury keep on charging up the rankings. They seem to be the only programme having a good time in the 2A South East, as they're the one team that hasn't had to push back any games. Their offensive output has increased through each outing, and while there are some that will claim they're just a moderate team in a weak conference, some of the scores they put up against ARU at the weekend would have been tough for any defence in this tier to shut down.
2.
The Gladiators are locked into the number 2 spot until someone can show us a reason to shift them. They're putting confident wins against every opponent and according to the BUCS website have been awarded the win against Bath Spa despite the game being called off ahead of the half. We'll have to do some digging here, however if it stands the Gladiators go into the break 4-0 and with time to rest up and prepare before their 2 biggest fixtures of the season against the got on hot Bristol Barracuda and the vulnerable looking Plymouth Blitz.
1.
Jets sit pretty at number 1 but this weekend's game against Lincoln will most likely make or break their season. The Colonials can't afford another loss, but nor can the Jets risk dropping their head-to-head against their toughest conference rival. Sunday should be a cracker. There we have it nation, probably our penultimate pre-Christmas rankings, as so far there's only a single game lined up for week 7. There's certainly been some shifts and with most of the teams only halfway through their season there's still a lot of balling left to play out. While we've got you here, obviously we're going to have a few rankingless weeks over the Christmas break, so what kind of content do you think you'd like to see instead? Big play highlights or blooper reels? Perhaps BUCS head coaches dressed as Santa's elves doing a little dance? Let us know in the comments down below and we'll see if we can make it happen. Our thanks go out to all the teams that stepped up to share tape this week, and if your team featured, why not give us a share on Facebook? You know, show off to all your friends. Remember to hop onto YouTube and like this video if you liked it, and subscribe so you don't miss out on more content. It really helps us out in knowing what we're doing right and wrong, and also helps our videos, i.e. your big plays, reach a wider audience. And in the meantime, play hard, play safe, and go check out our scoop from last weekend.
It's huge! Huge!